One day, while God and Lucifer were jamming, Satan strummed the Lydian scale on his axe. "What the hell was that?" said God. "That's this new scale I've been working on with the tritone interval." "Now you know it's against the rules to play anything other than pentatonic, right?" said Jesus. Satan replied, "Yeah, I know, but Jesus Christ, don't you ever want to try something new? This one note is like 6 half steps from the root. I like playing it over and over again. 6, 6, 6. How dare you play the number of the beast, roared God. I'm grounding you to hell." In this challenge, we'll use Lucifer's scale to make a song about the day Satan fell from heaven. Using my composer's toolkit, I'll tab the scale, chords, and a musical phrase to get you started. In part 2, I'll break down my DAW recording session to show you every step of the compositional process. Now you can join the live class for this challenge and submit your own songs in the description below. We're writing weekly riffs in medieval, neoclassical, thrash, and other metal styles. The storyline for each class really helps inspire your best work. We've got things like Dracula's Castle, Pharaoh's Curse, Dante's Inferno, and more. Now here we are in Guitar Pro, Heaven's Demons. This is my Lydian mode toolkit, and you might be thinking to yourself, why the hell did Shred choose a major mode to represent the devil? And the reason is twofold. Number one, the Lydian scale has that tritone interval in it, which is highly dissonant. And number two, you have to remember that Lucifer was known as the angel of light before he fell from heaven. And the Lydian mode really is probably the brightest of all the modes. So it has an interesting pull between that tritone dissonance and also the major tonality. So let's choose a little bit more unique way to represent the devil today. And we're going to get started here, beginning on an E pitch here. Let's sketch out this scale. We have the root. Next up, the major second, F sharp. From there, we're moving to the major third, G sharp. That's what gives this scale the major quality. Here is the special tone coming up next. Are you ready for this shit? There it is, the A sharp, that Diabolos in Musica. And then it resolves nicely to the 9th fret, to that perfect 5th interval. And from there, we're going to jump up to the major 6th, and then we have the major 7th before we're back to the root. So this is our language for E Lydian. It's like the letters of the alphabet to speak this language. Now, step 2. This is where people oftentimes get stuck. And this channel is all about composition. So once you have a scale, how do you actually make music with the scale? And the answer is the C word, chords. So if you just learn the scale, you really haven't done yourself much of a favor at all, because there's no, another C word here, context. You need to have harmony in place in order to understand the sound or the feeling or the vibe, the mood of the mode. So we have an E major chord to start us off. That's really the basis here. Now, how did I come up with that? And the answer is by playing every other note of the scale. So if you come back to the scale here, play E, skip F sharp, go to G sharp, skip A sharp, and play B. That is an E major triad. So that's how we come up with the notes. Now, the second chord is going to blow your mind. This is where that Lydian light and that magical quality comes into play. So this is going to be an F sharp major chord, but over the E bass. And everybody is always like, well, hold on, are those the only two chords I can play to sound Lydian? And the answer is yes, but it's not limiting because you can play these chords all over the fretboard, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. So chord 2 is derived by starting on the second degree of the scale and playing every other note, F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. This is a total game changer. Your life will never be the same if you understand how to pair modes with chords. Now let's listen to this absolute magical delight of a progression. Oh, I love that. Just lifts you up. In this case, to level 666. Okay, now that we have our primary chords and the scale, what we want to do next is sketch out a few variations because composition is repetition and development. In other words, say the same thing in different ways. So this exercise right here is extremely powerful, and it's not just about learning to compose, but also how to unfuck your knowledge of the guitar fretboard. So we're going to start here on this E major chord. Just a partial of that full E shape. And I'm going to move then up to an F sharp. And that is the drill for this entire exercise. We're just going to play those two chords in different ways. So you have an E, and then you have an F sharp, and it's going to say F sharp 7, which is fine because you have, the 7th E in here. But I don't want to get into the weeds. The main idea is just we're playing E and F sharp chords. So the next inversion here, this is E major in first inversion essentially. That's the way to think about that. E over G sharp. And then what you do is simply you just go up a whole step. So all those tones just literally jump up a whole step. And that's going to be F sharp, A sharp diminished my ass, F sharp over A sharp. Sometimes Guitar Pro gets confused. Next is second inversion. So that's E major over B. Of course, everybody knows B stands for bitch. Then we've got this F sharp major over C sharp, and let's dial that in. That's fine. We can go with that, Guitar Pro. So let's hear how that sounds. This is really how you start writing songs. Is develop these different harmonic variations. Sounds like a magical sound, right? Okay, so now that we have the scale and we have the chord progression and we have some variations on those chords, what we need to do is start putting together a phrase that actually sounds like something, like a musical thought. And the way that we do that is with counterpoint. And you probably not heard a lot about counterpoint if you're a guitar player. It's just the science of how voices move. So if you're into writing metal riffs, this is the #1 thing. It's really powerful for generating a riff line. So I'll demonstrate what I mean. What we're essentially going to do here is combine the scale and the chords. So yeah, we could do that, or maybe even that. Maybe we'll just start on those E octaves there. And then you're thinking like that F sharp sound. And that's going to set us up nicely for a Lydian tonality. Right? Then from there, what we could do is maybe introduce a little bit of devilish dissonance. Okay. So there we have like a little phrase. Now, that actually works out pretty good, but still you're like, yeah, I'm not going to get a gold record with that line probably. And so what we'll do next is put that into a phrase where we have some pedal tones going on. And also some rhythm. Am I right? I mean, those rhythms are pretty boring. So why don't we generate an interesting rhythmic idea? And something I've been kind of toying with is like this idea where you take a dotted eighth note and then just sort of rep that out a few times. This gets really interesting, actually. There's a great push and pull in the rhythm. Let's see. Last one maybe like that. Is that even a measure? Yeah, okay. So check out the vibe of this. I love like just the way this dances. It's really, you don't think of metal music as something you could necessarily dance to, but you probably could this. Oh yeah. Man, that's like a groove. So if we take that rhythm and combine it with our counterpoint moves, we might actually have something digestible to the general public that the babes would enjoy. Okay, so the first one's got to be that dotted eighth note, right? And then let's add a couple more in, and then we'll do like maybe another counterpoint stab in here. I'm actually not totally sure if this is going to work out, but we'll figure something. So yeah, we got and then we just need this figure. Near-death experience again. I think I need some WAP juice is the issue here. Oh yeah, 69 grams of protein per sip. Never lets you down. Let's check it out. Yeah, so that's got like a bit of a like syncopated push and pull that you might hear in progressive metal. And I'll just put in a couple more of those counterpoint moves for measure 2 and pass it off as a song idea. Ready? Yeah. Okay, so at least now at this stage you can see some kind of musical idea taking shape. Now in phase 2, I'm going to show you a recording that I put together in my DAW based on the composer's toolkit for Lucifer scale. And I'm using Logic Pro as my application, and this is really where the rubber meets the road. We're going to go through the basic tracks and other instrumentation using the stereo field, double tracking guitars, and more. I'll see you over there. Okay, so here we are in Logic, and as I said before, this is how we implement the ideas that we have. You know, I think a lot of guitar players these days think that just playing guitar is enough. But you are sorely mistaken if that's your opinion. In order to get people to hear your music or appreciate your ideas, you have to be able to articulate them clearly and present it on a silver platter to the world with no work on the listener's part up front. Don't ask people to imagine what's in your mind. You want to try to bring that out as clearly as possible. So here's what I came up with. out as Lucifer burns in hell. Ugh. Okay, so there is what I came up with. I was trying to imagine what Lucifer, was like when he was falling from the sky, and I forgot to record the guitars for this original section here, but I have the MIDI data programmed in for the lick. So this lick is kind of like a falling lick, right? Sounds like you're falling from the sky. So having that storyline really helps you bring out, a stronger emotion in your music, and we're in the business of making people feel things when it comes to music. So I started here with the basic tracks, which are always drums and bass, but the very first thing you do is program the drums. And I'm just using Easy Drummer to do that. I'm not getting real fancy here. There's a lot of people that just do this way better than me. But this will at least get you making some noise. There's how the kit sounds. And what I actually do is program in all of the MIDI notes. And you see here in the piano roll window, you can adjust like the length of the notes if you like that. Or, the part of the drum kit that it hits. And that's what I do. So I just go through and, add in drum hits and parts like that and just make a total mess like I just did until I get something that works. And what I'm really programming those parts to is a MIDI track that I import from Guitar Pro. So you saw before we were in Guitar Pro when I was tabbing out the toolkit. And I will do that for the idea, and I've got my guitar in my hand, and I'm sort of working things out, and then tabbing that on the computer, and then I work out another idea. And so that's the compositional process for me. Next, I add the bass, and the bass is really, really important. Gives us that low-end sound. And I tend to prefer this Rickenbacker sound here to get that slap, smack, sort of punchy tone. And the big thing here is to make sure that the drums and bass are just so locked in that it makes the babes want to dance, right? It's just electrifying and the groove is irresistible. So let's hear a little bit of the drums and bass. Just repping the kick there. You always want to have that build, where the tension increases. Don't feel like you have to play all the instruments all the time. Huge mistake. Okay, here we go. Right, that's the strongest part of the song. It's like our chorus. Okay, bring it back down. Dynamics. Give me the D, son. And by D, I mean dynamics. And here's what I'm talking about, just a groove. This ain't nothing fancy. Okay, so that's the idea with the basic tracks. Don't go overboard there with complexity. What you want is a nice, firm foundation for everything else to live on. Now, once that happens, I will start to sketch out some guitar parts. And what I did in the beginning was repped like a low gain sort of sound here, I think. Never mind, that's a no gain sound. And I've actually got a ton of tracks here, all to kind of create atmosphere. That's that same part in octaves. And see how it gets more intense? Everything you ever write, as far as I'm concerned, should have this kind of effect to it. I call it the Enter Sandman build. Enter Sandman is a blueprint. It's a archetype for metal songwriters. And that starts out soft, and builds into this just absolute beastly roar from the underworld, right? That's kind of what you want all of your songs to do, is to have that. And a good movie does that too, right? Just things become more and more intense until they explode. Okay, what else did I do? There's that rhythm, actually, that we were looking at. Okay, so that gives us like a nice little syncopated dance. Hear it against the metronome. Every time I hit that tritone, it just gives me like this feel of like burning. I'm imagining like just fire. So the Lydian mode here can be presented in a little bit more dissonant fashion, like I'm doing here. It doesn't have to be like this super major, I don't want to say cheesy because that's more like Ionian, but it can be used in that way where it's just overly sweet, you know. But just hold back a little bit and don't play all those tones all the time, and you get this wonderful kind of dissonant payoff, which is what we're going for here. What else did I do? I just basically have a lot of atmospheric things. So that little chord up top, this adds so much to your music, it's insane. So don't be afraid to record 69 tracks all at once is the moral of the story here. And I love that sound right there. Sounds like it's burning again. It's like guitar on fire. That's the main theme. I'm calling that Lucifer's theme. And that comes in real heavy a little bit later. And then we have the, that's like an organ drone there. And all that together in the beginning really just creates this big bed of musical flavor. Chime, love that. I even have in here like a little tapping lick. Check this out. It's just like a textural tapping thing. So it's like you're not using tapping there in the Eddie Van Halen sense. It's something that's just in the mix there and adds like a little bit of rhythmic interest and whatnot. Now we get to the heavy guitars, the best part. And always double track your guitar parts. This is voodoo magic that will just add sonic sorcery to your songs. Like it's just, if you've never tried this before, the life path you're on is about to be altered eternally. This just sounds massive. So you have the one side, right? But then when you you play that same part again, don't copy and paste, make it a unique performance. You get this. That's crazy, the difference there. Okay, so double track your guitar parts to get that really heavy sound. I have that extremely heavily gated, more heavily gated than I would like because Gibson's guitar pickups are hard to silence. Get a lot of noise coming through. Okay, what else happens here? I love that melody because it's so simple and it just really pulls at your emotions. And I've got a lot of things happening here in way of instrumentation that are not guitars. Like synths and choirs. I'm actually playing a slightly different melody in that synth line. But that really helps open things up. So listen for those with the whole mix. Now that I'm sitting here listening to this, I'm wondering if we could add just a little bit more high-end fizzle on that melody part. I wonder what this would do. Maybe, maybe not. I need that maybe even up another octave. I wonder if we could do that. And then just more volume really on that. So let's just add that into the mix. Glorious. There's those primary chords, and you can see that in the organ part here. E and F sharp, right? So you got, there's the E with the triad on top, and then the F sharp, all over an E. That's really important. Okay, then it moves into second melody. Oh, well, there's the sweep picking part right here. And it's like Satan, maybe he's like trying to go back to heaven, you know, that ascending arpeggio section, but then God smacks him back down and he falls at the gates of the celestial realms. Tumbling down. I love this riff. Now, I did add that sort of syncopated extra guitar part. I don't know if I should have done that or not. That's very prog, and it's a lot to handle in like a 30-second piece of music. It's like a 6-against-4 kind of feel. If we took that out, then we would just have that one riff banging. And then we have the outro here, which again comes down to that compound textural effect where the more, you know, different parts you have with different timbres or tone quality, the bigger the sound. You know, it's the Ingray-Malmsteen principle. More is more. I love that. It's just like a growl. Shit. Take part in my Riff Lord Challenge and submit your own music for feedback in the description below. We're posting all of our songs on Discord. That's where you get my class notes as well. I provide the guitar profile, PDF, MIDI, what else? There's like more stuff too, but you get a bunch of just primers that get you started in writing music fast.